lot of people, we heard that their cabins flooded. They were ankle deep in sewage. It was a mess.
It was the dream vacation that turned into a nightmare. But now that all those Carnival passengers are finally back home, the big question is, how much is this going to cost the cruise line? Attorney morning with a closer look at the legal rights of cruise passengers. Good morning.
Good morning, Kristen.
And we know it can be kind of gray because you're out there in the water and who knows what, but we know that one of the first lawsuits was just filed Friday by one of the Carnival passengers, and it challenges Carnival's advertising?
It's just part of the total lawsuit that the woman filed. She was from Texas and filed the lawsuit in Miami as required by the contract. But one of the things she focused in on, one of her claims, is that the advertising basically promised her this dream vacation. As you talked about, some of the language that was in the lawsuit included things like they're promising a stress-free vacation aboard the vessel to induce her to contract with the defendant, in other words, Carnival, for passage on a seaworthy vessel. Now, it all sounds very nice and relaxing, but when you get out on the boat and you're spinning around on an 863-foot long vessel and you have no running water, you have sewage all over the place, you have no medication, and basically you're in abject horror conditions out there in the water. So what it does is all these different claims become a negligence claim against Carnival. You got to look at not only the engine fire, how they reacted to it, why they didn't go to a different port. There was some talk that at one point they were adrift for over 90 miles trying to get to another port. So all those things come together and form the basis of the lawsuit. And that's what she filed, this one lawsuit already. You can expect many more to be filed in Miami federal court.
I bet. So if you're planning a cruise, what do you need to be aware of before you book?
Biggest thing you can do is print off the ticket contract, and this is actually Carnival's ticket contract that you can find online. Read all of the conditions and the terms and conditions of it. Specifically in this contract, paragraphs 11 through 13 deal with all the limits of liability, what you're able to recover from, and also it talks about where you can sue. The jurisdiction is a big thing. We saw this with the Costa Concordia last year, and also you have to sue Carnival in Miami federal court. So what you also have to look at what other things are covered. If a natural disaster happens and you're out in the open water, can they change course? Are they liable once you get back to another port, which is not where you're supposed to be? The answer can be no. So you need to check all of those things before you actually book your ticket and make sure that you have the right information before you even, hit that send button to charge your credit card.
So this is an instance where reading the fine print can really be a benefit.
Absolutely, and this contract itself is about 13 pages long, so you need to take the time to look through it because it covers all the things that essentially what happened on the Triumph. Also talking about extreme emotional distress. That's one of the things people are suing for, and that's not covered unless they can attribute it to the negligence of Carnival itself.
And obviously, this is a huge PR nightmare for Carnival. How do you think this will affect the business long term or just the cruise industry in general?
Well, until people stop cruising, it's not really going to affect anything in terms of Carnival itself or even the cruise industry itself. If you take a look at some of the numbers that we have, they're absolutely staggering. The cruise industry itself is a $36.2 billion industry. 20.9 million people went on cruises last year alone. And you take a look at Carnival's share of the market share, it's 48.4%. Royal Caribbean's the next biggest one is only 23%. Even Disney, one of the more popular ones here in Florida, only makes up 2.5%. So you can see Carnival, with its 24 ships that it has in its fleet, has a giant stake in this business. And unless people stop taking Carnival cruises, they're really not going to be affected. I think they'll absorb a lot of the cost and the lawsuits, just like they had to with the Costa Concordia disaster last year, which is upwards on the hundreds of billions of dollars that they're just to recover the ship and also pay out for the lawsuits.
What a mess. But I think for people like me and you who've never been on a cruise, this doesn't exactly make you want to go.
No, not at all. When you see those images of people in tent cities on top of a boat stranded in the middle of nowhere, and that's really the thing that would freak me out, is you're adrift in the middle of the sea and you get towed 500 miles back and you're only going 5-6 miles an hour. I know I probably would be okay if my parents were on the cruise with me. Forget it.
All right. Well, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me, Kristen.
Appreciate your legal perspective. We'll be right back.